talk about 70-volt commercial audio systems, and I'm going to simplify this as much as I can for you. One of the coolest things about 70-volt is it's one of the very high profit categories left for us out there today. Nobody cross shops 70-volt. You know, if you're in it and you do a good job at it, then nobody's going to cross shop you. Nobody's going to go online and say, hey, you know, I just found this really cool 70-volt stuff online and your price is way high. So it just doesn't happen. It's all about your expertise, and so getting that across to the custom integrators out there is what this is all about. But let's talk a little bit about 70-volt, a little bit about the basics. Traditional residential gear is high current, right? It's typically 4, 6, 8 ohm. We all know what that is. We all have that in our house, right? And we like to play it loud. And low impedance, or low Z, is basically what we're talking about when we talk about 8 ohm type stereo. High current, low impedance. 70-volt commercial gear, on the other hand, is what's called constant voltage audio, distributed audio, or high impedance, or high Z. Quite different, and we're gonna explore that right now. There's also 100-volt as well. You'll see on the back of most of these mixer amplifiers that there is also a 100-volt leg, and that's generally what's used in Europe. 100-volt though requires conduit, so we don't use 70-volt in the US or in Canada because 70-volt is considered to be class 2, so we don't use 100-volt because we don't want to have to add conduit to the job. Adds a lot of money, a lot of labor, very, very labor intensive. But in Europe, they have solid wall construction, stuff like that. So, you know, 100-volt conduit, no worries. Now, 70-volt, it's also it's an awesome business opportunity for everybody out there. You know, a lot of people I think are missing the boat. Everybody should be doing this. It's a very high profit revenue stream, and the product we're going to talk about today, especially the X-Zone 70V, is this is right in the wheelhouse for the type of stuff that the guys that we do business with most. This is right in their wheelhouse, the kind of stuff that they like to do. More a little bit more on the light commercial side. Light commercial, you know, if you want to talk about 30 speakers on one amplifier as light commercial, then that's light commercial. But Russound, we can do that, 300 watt X-Zone 70V. But business opportunities, you know, things like coffee shops and restaurants, other things, dance studios, they're popping up all over the place. Back to yoga studios, dance studios, all these things, they're everywhere. And outdoor venues, you know, I know you guys out there on the West Coast probably experience the same thing, only times 100,000. We here in New Hampshire, for example, right here in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, on the coast, right here on the ocean, 12 new restaurants opened last summer alone, and of the 12 of them, 8 have outdoor decks, and you know, they want music out there. And you can't do 8 ohm stereo. Try to do 8 ohm stereo outside. It's not going to work. It's just not going to happen. You're going to run into incredible series parallel wiring. Going to make you rip your hair out. You know, 70-volt. That's what you want to use in these venues. It's a good way to get in, get out, get the music where the people are. You'll be able to spread it around. You'll be able to go great distances, you know, using single wire. So not to worry about having to, you know, run 8 ohm stereo in these type of venues. It gets very expensive, it gets very messy, and it just isn't right. So 70-volt, let's see where this all fits into these areas. So why do most custom integrators ignore 70-volt? You know, I talk to them all over the place, and I think it's because they're used to seeing this. You know, your positive, negative, red and black clip on the back of a speaker, right speaker, left speaker, right? You take that amplifier, stereo receiver, whatever, plug in left speaker, right speaker, and you know, crank it up, let her rip. That's what they're used to. You know, that's what we're all used to. But most people not used to seeing this. You know, what the heck is that? What are all these wires? I mean, you know, you just look at it and you say this isn't audio. What is this? This has to be for some kind of other stuff. But actually, what you're looking at here, these are called transformers. and these are actually step-down transformers. That's what you have to have when you're talking about constant voltage audio, because basically what happens is at the amplifier end, that amplifier is creating constant voltage, lots and lots of voltage. 70 volts, that's a lot. It's shooting it right down a speaker wire. And then when it gets to each speaker, these step-down transformers have to take that constant voltage and bring it down to a usable level. That's what they have to do. Similar to every town, you got a power station, power grid. You have power lines, and then those power grids are generating intense amounts of voltage, and they're shooting it down these power lines. And then at the other end, at the poles, there are transformers at the telephone poles, and it takes all that voltage and brings it down to a usable level to be able to be used in the home. Well, this is the same idea, okay? Same idea. And with all these wires, the reason is because it's giving you options. We love options, and there's tons of options here. Check this out. The thing is, you don't have to be afraid of it, though, because each of these wires is just a different power or volume setting. Okay, when you go back, let's go back and look at these. Even though you look at all these wires, one of the things that I can tell you about this is that not to be alarmed, because you're only going to use two. You're only going to use two wires, and I'm going to give you a hint. One of them is always going to be black, so that kind of narrows it down for you. All right, now each wire is a different volume setting, and there's always one connection to a ground. That's your black one. And then the other one just goes to a different tap option, 7.5, 15 watt, 30 watt, 60 watt, whatever you want to do. And I'm going to show you how you do that and why. But there's two great reasons with Russound gear that you don't have to worry about this kind of stuff, because, no matter how many wires, again, you're only using two, right? So it's not a big deal. But also with Russound AW70V6 commercial loudspeakers, we eliminate all those extra wires, and we use tap dial, instead. Regular binding post connectors and a tap dial. You look at the back of our speaker right here, and you don't see a whole bunch of wires hanging out. You just see a little dial right there. So all you're doing is you're taking your speaker wire, you connect it to the back of the speaker, just like you always would, right? And then you just take that little tap, put a little screwdriver in that slot, and you turn it to whatever setting you want. And so you don't have to go in and try different tap settings for different volume levels and different areas, and breaking solder connections and heat shrink and all that kind of stuff. These speakers are way cool. They do it all for you. And you can do it on the fly when they're hanging. You can walk right up to one and change that tap setting right on the fly. How cool is that? Simple. It's much simpler than anyone thinks. So as I was mentioning, amplifiers use step-up transformers to create constant voltage, 70 volt, 100 volt. The old days, there was 25 volt, right? Those old Bogan guys that used to be in like K through 12 in school, paging, telling people to come to the principal's office. Yeah. Constant voltage is sent down a single speaker wire. You don't have left and right. This is mono. Speakers use step-down transformers to budget that voltage down to a usable level, as we mentioned. And the various tap settings just allow the installer to adjust the output right at each speaker. So you can really have some fine-tuning adjustments going on there. But let's look at wire. How cool is this? Look at this. You can use, with 70 volt, you can also use much, much lighter gauge wire and run tremendous distances by comparison to regular 8-ohm stereo. Let's have a look right here. You run down that left side of that graph and you'll see, let's go down to 18 gauge, and you go across and you look above, you see 8-ohm speakers. Go straight down, 34 feet. That's about it. And then you have 0.5 dB loss right there. Think about that. Only 34 feet. It's cool because it's in the house. You don't need a whole lot more than that. But with 70 volt, look what I can do. Same thing. 18 gauge wire, 823 feet, and half a dB loss. If I don't mind a 3 dB loss, I can run a mile with 18 gauge wire. You want to put a speaker in a parking lot a mile away? You run the wire. I'll put a Russound amp in a speaker, make it happen for you. So yeah, look above it, check that out. Let's look at 10 gauge, right? You can run 7 miles at 3 dB loss. So anyway, point being, lighter wire, cheaper than putting in 8-ohm stereo. You only need 18 gauge, 16 gauge. Look, at 16 gauge can run 1,300 feet. Well, you don't need any more than that on the truck. You really don't. Your speaker connections are simple. Wiring is much simpler than any traditional low-Z system because all the connections are made in parallel. All you're doing is coming out of your amplifier and you jump into first speaker, positive, negative, jump right off of that guy to speaker number 2, out of that guy to speaker number 3, and let her rip. Keep going. You know, just keep going. And then we set the taps accordingly, which I'll show you in just a minute how that works too. And it's simple. I mean, you can't screw it up. It's easy. Multiple speakers can be run on a single speaker wire. Don't have to run left and right. Nope, that's at home. You can do that at home, but you don't have to do that in a commercial environment. Covering a space outdoors, you know, it's kind of difficult. Outdoor spaces require installation of multiple speakers, right, to cover a space. You can't just put a speaker here, a speaker there. You're going to have hot spots and dead spots. You got to have lots of speakers. Lots of speakers. When you're talking constant voltage, 70 volt, more speakers at lower tap settings is much, much better than fewer speakers at higher tap settings. Plus, more speakers, you make more money, right? So, again, the solution is high Z. Best to use more speakers at lower tap settings than fewer speakers at higher tap settings. It avoids hot spots, much more even coverage, okay? And you're going mono because for stereo imaging to be effective, you need to be in a sweet spot. You know, like look at that little image I just popped up down there, you know. You got left speaker, right speaker, you're right there in the middle, sitting there with a cocktail and having a, you know, listen to your favorite music. That's a sweet spot. That's for stereo imaging. It's perfect. But outdoors, you know, and large venues and things like that, where is the sweet spot? There is none, right? Mono will provide much more even coverage in these areas. So you need to put the music where the people are. That's everywhere. So go mono with this stuff. Don't try doing stereo stuff in an area like this image you're looking at. Imagine trying to do stereo in that little area in the backyard there, that barbecue area, sitting area with fireplace, all that. Jeez, looks like they have a bunch of cannonballs in there too, eh? Anyway, covering the space indoors. Let's have a look at this grid here. Open space, you know, take a large open area, big dance studio, something along those lines. Open space, 10 to 12 foot ceilings. Your speakers say tapped at 7.5 each, okay? Coverage, approximately 200 square feet per speaker. I like 150 square feet better. Too much is just enough. I live by that. And average SPL, though, with using this formula we're looking at, is approximately 86 dB. And that's exactly what you are trying to accomplish. So in this type of environment, one speaker about every 10 feet, approximately 10 feet apart, and you're going to cover it. You know, if you wanted to save money, eliminate a couple of speakers here, you know, you could go, you got 4 across times 4 here. You could go 4, then 3, then 4, then 3. You know, you could do that, and you get similar coverage. You get my drift. So you can also use arrays. Arrays are awesome because you have everything in one spot. It's like a cluster, you know. You gotta, but if the ceilings are high enough and you can mount a post and make yourself a little bracket where you can bracket 4 speakers pointing in 4 different directions, you're going to really cover a lot of area with not a lot of speakers. So if you need to play it loud and you need to tap these guys at 60 watts or 30 watts, whatever, don't be afraid to do them in arrays like this. So when you have venues with higher ceilings, just fly the speakers, you know, in different arrays like this. It works really, really well. And again, you're going to cover tons of area with fewer speakers. So a great way also to keep everything in one location. So you're not running along the walls all the way around on the outside, stuff like that. Just a little idea for you. Headroom. You know, you got to remember headroom with these amplifiers. No matter what you have for power, regardless of what your power is, you got to make sure that you always reserve about 20% of that overall power for headroom. All right. Example we're going to use, the way cool Russound X-Zone 70V is a 300 watt beast, and we're going to use that guy to talk about because you can do a lot of stuff with this one. But let's use it as an example. 300 watt, less 20%. That's 60 watts of power that we want to save as headroom, okay? Kind of a safety valve. So that leaves us 240 watts of usable or nominal level, 240 watts of usable power, allowing 60 watts of headroom for transient peaks, for that idiot that screams in the microphone or slams it against the bass bin or whatever. You know, you got to kind of leave yourself a little bit of room there. You know, things playing way loud, transient peaks will far exceed, you know, the nominal input. So you got to be careful in a commercial environment, because if you're not careful and your amp ends up clipping, then you're going to shut that amp down and you're going to well those speakers shut and your amplifier is going to shut down. But, you know, you guys were all smart enough to use a Russound amplifier, so what happens as soon as you remove that short, that amplifier just starts playing again. You don't have to worry about sending it in to be fixed, because it's got the most awesome thermal protection, you know, very beefy. So, but still, it makes you have to roll a truck and go, oh, I'm sorry, now you got to put in new speakers, all that stuff. So you leave that headroom, safety zone, allowing transient audio peaks to exceed the nominal level without clipping the amplifier and damaging the system. Clipping can destroy speakers. It causes shorts. It makes your amplifiers shut down. That's not good. People right in the middle of dancing and all of a sudden, no music. Not good. Let's design a system. This is how easy this is, okay? Let's do a 16 speaker job here. You have an X-Zone 70V. This guy's a powerhouse, 300 watt, and you have 16 speakers, right? Tapped at 15 watts each, and 16 speakers times 15 watts, 240 watt load. 60 watts of reserve power. Cool, we have that. That's 20%. That's what we wanted. 70 volt systems are really easy to calculate, aren't they? Huh? Look at that. Doesn't get much easier than that. Let's do another one. 30 speakers, all right? You have an X-Zone 70B. You have 30 speakers this time. We're going to tap these guys at 7.5 watts each. 30 speakers times 7.5 watts each is 225 watt load. That's what we're presenting to that amplifier. 75 watts left over for headroom. That's future growth. I can even go in and add some more speakers if they want to, you know, put a little office edition on there or something. I left myself a little bit of room for growth there. So again, these systems are extremely easy to calculate and install. So you know, not to worry. Now let's have a look at the Russound X-Zone 70V. What you're looking at is front and back. So actually, it's only half of what you're seeing there. It's only one U high. Very, very cool piece. 300 watt output. It's a mixer amplifier, so it's an amp preamp all built in. 70 and 100 volt operation. Also, there's a 4 ohm operation for those out there who care. Built-in extreme music streamer. That's what's really cool about this piece. Makes it very different than anything else out there. No one else does that. There's a streamer built into this thing as a source on board right out of the box. I mean, Pandora, Spotify, SiriusXM, SiriusXM for business already in there, really? And TuneIn and VTuner, and you know, you can also connect this guy because it's a network connected piece. You can also with this streamer, you can pull DLNA content from the network, and so you're going to connect a NAS drive to this guy, and all those thousands of tunes have been ripping for years. You can pull all those guys through here. You can do iTunes through here because of DLNA, and if all of that isn't enough, you also have AirPlay. So any music that resides on your device that you have, you can AirPlay that to this guy as well. I mean, right out of the box, millions of songs available to the end user, millions. I mean, that USB port for that flash hard drive audio, very, very cool. This thing could be in a dance club and someone could come in with a thumb drive, a little flash drive with their favorite tunes that they ripped last night, brand new, and they want to share it with everybody, plug it in this thing, and they're listening to it. Simple as that. Nobody does this stuff. Pre-outs for additional amplifiers. You want to grow a system, go for it. My take on it, keep it simple. You can 30 speakers is a lot. You can do a lot of things, and you got to remember, The wheelhouse for the X-Zone 70V, the wheelhouse is for large areas or shared areas that want to share music and paging. That's what it's for. If you have a hotel that you have, you know, 4 fitness rooms with video displays, and you have a lobby area with, you know, 5 video displays, and you have 3 conference rooms with microphones, and you're talking all these zones and all this kind of stuff. No, that's not the X-Zone 70V. I can introduce you to people that can do that for you. But the wheelhouse here is for large open spaces that want to share music and paging. That's what it's for. Key selling features, that built-in streamer. Okay, that's really important because no one else does that. Nobody. You can access all that music I was talking about. And the USB port for playing flash drive music and externally powered USB drives and stuff like that. This guy has a microphone input with ducting. So ducting isn't like muting. It's not going to shut that music right down, right? It's going to lower the volume, allow you to broadcast your page above that music, and then when you remove the page, all of a sudden your music comes back to normal level. But microphone input with ducting. And phantom power support, because there's different kinds of microphones, right? There's dynamic microphones, there's condenser microphones, things like that. You know, dynamic microphones are just a straight input on this guy. But condenser mics, you know, those that have active electronics on board, that's DC power. You can't just plug that into a mixer. You got to have what is called phantom power, which is 15 volt DC. I mean, 15 watt. DC, excuse me, and it's called phantom power, but it's for condenser microphones that already have their onboard active electronics. 3.5 millimeter audio source input. If you want to add another source to this guy, go for it. Easy browser-based configuration, web config. You can go in. The integrator can install this guy, and in no time he can set this thing up with his phone or his iPad. A matter of minutes. And a lot of flexible mounting options. You have web config, as I mentioned. It allows the installer to connect to this guy and via the IP address through any smartphone, tablet, whatever, and just go in and configure it. And it's designed to be used with a web browser. You unlock controllers, streamers, amplifiers, all the Russound gear. That's how you get in there. And with web config, you can completely configure this guy quickly and easily. No other downloads required. And it looks kind of like this. You get status pages because, like on this guy, right, there's a host and a streamer, so you have 2 IP addresses. You want to be able to see those guys, right? Then you can go in and check your networking page and check all that information. You can go into your streamer settings, set up all of your different music services. You can enable, disable, you can shuffle them around, you can do all kinds of different things in there, set your streamer up custom for your end user. On the front panel, you have the output levels so that you know what you're doing with this guy, so you're not clipping this amplifier. You can get a visual on the front, so when you're playing this guy, you can tell exactly what you're doing for output. You have LEDs off to the right-hand corner there for helping with troubleshooting. Example, customer calls and says, hey, I lost my Pandora. Where's it? It's gone. And you say, okay, well, what do you see on that front panel? And he goes, well, that yellow light is flashing. Well, sir, that means that you have a network error. If you just disconnect your router and you know, power cycle your router and your network gear, then you know everything will come back. Your Pandora will come back, no worries. And it probably will. So you have a front-mounted power button. Remember, this guy needs to stay on all the time. It is a network-connected device. It's waiting for information. It's also waiting for updates, things along those lines. Keep it on. And then you also have right on the front panel, you have a system volume and microphone volume right on the front panel. So this guy, again, everything is right there. At the back, you have that USB port that we talked about. You have a 3.5 millimeter jack for sources. You also have your operation switch right there. You also have a removable power cord, as with all Russound gear. Ethernet port right there. That's what connects you to the network. You have balanced mic inputs, gain control, phantom power switch, everything you need right there as a mic mixer. You also have balanced preamp outputs, so you can feed additional amplifiers if you want. And then you have your speaker connections, 70 volt, 100 volt. And then your regular certifications. We do business all over the world, so we need to put all kinds of stuff printed on the back of our amplifiers. Sirius XM for business, you know, all music, no interruptions, right on board, built on board natively, licensed and legal. When you go and put this in a commercial environment, you know, the thing is that's basically called a public performance. If they just play regular radio, they can get nasty fines for that. So it has to be licensed. And so this guy has it right on board. And family-friendly lyrics. You're not going to be hearing Bubba the Love Sponge or anything like that. All clean stuff. And you can control this guy right from the app. You know, my Russound app on a smartphone. You get that Sirius XM for business music experience. It's pretty awesome. And we have something going for you guys also. We have a little program going on right now, a little commission program. 75 bucks a pop, guys. Every time you activate, one of your integrators activates Sirius XM for business, they get a $75 bill, and that's from Dynamic Media. The website is all set up. You guys can get a hold of me, and I'll tell you how to get in there. But it's really cool. There's a portal in there. And you can also do a direct bill where you where they can buy Sirius XM for business at a wholesale rate and resell it to these people. And there's a place right in the website for tracking all this stuff. So you can view and track all your commissions right through the portal. And what does it say? Yeah, sign up in minutes and begin earning today. And if you do the math, actually the recurring revenue over a period of 3 years really starts to accumulate, where the 75 bucks was spent at the bar, you know, already. So might be something to think about. If you want to put Sirius XM on your app, then you just open up the Russound app and click the power button and select the logo, right? And then you enter the credentials and start enjoying some music. That's about as hard as it gets, guys. AW70V6. These are our 70 volt speakers, and great sounding audio systems. You know, at the risk of I'm going to run late here, about 5 minutes, so hang with me, guys. And but the audio systems in general, you know, one of the big knocks on any commercial 70 volt type system is that they sound bad. You know, and you know, sure they can. But 99% of the time, these systems, when they're installed, they're using $7 speakers. That's why they sound like crap, because $7 speakers sound like crap. If you want to make a 70 volt system sound good, you can really make a 70 volt system sound awesome. You have to use good speakers, just like anything else. You have to use good speakers, period. And these speakers are designed to do the job. And when you see the way that these guys perform out there in the real world, you get to see the difference of why we don't recommend $7 speakers for these types of jobs. They just don't sound that good. Quick and easy installation. I mean, look at the bracket. You just mount this thing on the wall. You got slotted brackets. Take that thing in one hand, connect the speaker wire to the back, drop it down in those slots, tighten it up. You know, while you got to position it the right direction, tighten it up, you're good to go. So surface mount speakers are easy. You can make a lot more money than when you're trying to install flush mount speakers all the time as well. And plus, you can do the tap settings on the fly. And these guys are weatherproof. They have a 1-inch tweeter, 6.5-inch woof, rubber surround, great for outdoor, you know, being exposed to all of the elements outdoors. You know, we live on the coast here also. We're right on the ocean, just like you guys out there. And so, you know, we deal with the salt air and that kind of stuff every day. And these things take a pound, and believe me, I got a pair in my yard, been there for over 10 years. Ported design for increased bass response, and aluminum grill on these guys. And what I'm going to leave you with is that what I've run across lately with the X-Zone 70V, a brand new sales avenue for you guys, something that to think about. Everybody thinks about commercial, you know, with this guy. Everybody thinks about doing all these, dance clubs and all this kind of thing, outdoor venues, whatever. Guess what? This works beautiful as an outdoor zone for a Russound multi-room system, a regular MCA like an 88X. If you take this guy, put it on the network, it appears on the network as another zone on a regular Russound system. So now you can take and run a really cool outdoor zone, which has been one of the biggest challenges that we deal with people all the time is running outdoor zones, using all the preamp outs, running amplifiers out there, running left and right speaker runs, all that crap. It runs into a lot of pain. This guy makes it so that you can run a killer outdoor zone. It's just a great way to go. And we have some outdoor speakers as well, some landscape speakers. You're looking at pictures of them right there that are on the way as we speak. So, general rule of thumb outdoors, a little bit different. Outdoor zone, okay? Speakers tapped at maybe 15 to 30 watts. You want a little bit more out there. You don't want 7.5, a little bit light, a little lame, right? Out there. You want to have a little bit more going on. It's outdoors. You're going to lose a lot of sound. 15 to 30 watts, say, pretty cool. Tap setting's going to vary on location and purpose. If they're over by the table where you're eating, you want to tap it down a little bit so it's not quite as loud. Coverage approximately 100 square feet per speaker outdoors. You're not going to get that 200 square foot coverage like you do indoors. And you can't determine SPL outdoors. It's crazy. Just can't do it. Man, don't even start thinking about it. So you're going to have a one speaker approximately every 8 to 10 feet out there. So you can run a really nice loop around that backyard area. And then for smooth bass, just add a subwoofer, and add a Russound subwoofer because it's way cool. Underground right there, there's a can with a 10-inch woof, and these guys are all available through Russound here very, very shortly. So you guys will have those in the barn, I'm sure, to add to what you got. So let's just do one, and then we're going to let you go. 8-speaker outdoor zone. You have an X-Zone 70V. You have 8 individual 70-volt landscape speakers tapped at 30 watts each. 8 speakers times 30 watts each is a 240-watt load. Well, look at that. 60 watts of headroom. 70-volt outdoor zones are really easy to calculate and much easier to install than 8-ohm stereo outdoor zones. Think about that. So tell your integrators. Outdoor zones. All it's going to do is more opportunities for you guys to be selling some of these X-Zone 70Vs out there for all these different applications, commercial, residential, all kinds of things, okay? So, high power, 300 watts, streamer, all your favorite music right on board. AirPlay, how cool is that? AirPlay is awesome. Because AirPlay, unlike Bluetooth, you don't have to be right in 20, 30 feet away. AirPlay is on the network, not on the line of sight. So as long as you have a good network, you can move around the house with your phone in your pocket, and you're going to still be connected with AirPlay. Think about that. Very, very cool. USB and DLNA. It's app-driven. It doesn't get much easier than that. It's only 1 U high, so it doesn't take up any space. And think about it. Outdoor zones, multiple speakers without impedance matching. Think about that. It's very, very cool. Plus, Sirius XM for business. Well, that wraps it up for me. I'm sorry I ran 5 minutes over, but I really appreciate you guys joining me this afternoon. I did record this session for you guys, so what I'll do is I'll get that in the hands of Robert, and he'll be able to distribute this for you guys. But I want to thank you for joining us, and if any of you guys have any questions at all, feel free to contact me. I'm Dan. Dan C at russound.com. We have awesome tech support. You guys call tech support, get to know these guys. They are good. They've been around a long time, and you're talking to Newmarket, New Hampshire, and it's really a good thing. So thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.